makes that decision, trying to be wise about what the actual rate of return is, a downward shift in that rate is going to mean an increase in the liabilities. And so I'm sure we've got a little bit of a bump up this year that has resulted also from the slight downward expectations on rate of return. Those things also are going to be in the system for years to come. I don't think anyone realistically would expect us to be at 8% rate of return anytime soon, and so we're making adjustments to be wise stewards of the pension funds.
Right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I just have, are you, Chief, you have full staff?
Yeah, we have two openings that we are going to. We had the civil service test that happened last Saturday. We're looking at, because of how we educate the EMTs in our class, it looks like June that we'll have at least 2 recruits into our academy, one with Bethel and Easton. If there's any more retirements from now till June, we'll also have them go as well.
What is your full complement?
121.
Thank you, Chief.
Anything else?
No.
Mr. Glazier?
Thank you, Ms. Eichenwald. This is more for Mr. Hartzell. In next year, when we begin to see the fire employees contribute to the medical care, where are we going to see that income? Is it going to be an income line, or will it just go directly against the medical costs in their department? And we'll see it in terms of a lower cost per person there when we look at the budget.
I would expect the latter. There's, I believe, whatever contributions are included that are currently done by non-bargaining unit employees are factored into that equation, and what we put out there is the net cost after that point. So yes, I would expect what you would see, therefore, some diminution, not a lot, but some, in the cost per employee for insurance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Eichenwald.
Anyone else? Mr. Glazier?
Just kind of quick question in regards to equipment. I think you needed 2 ladder trucks this time. Is it 2? Soil and wire or not?
2 ladder truck. We have one that is frontline ladder truck. We have one in reserve. That was part of the past arbitration to get to 25. That's why I kind of said that it's a good foundation, and hopefully, as the city continues to grow, that we can actually get a successor agreement to this agreement and put 2 more guys and make it up to 27 staffing, and then we can put our second ladder truck back in service.
Okay. So you're purchasing one now, right?
No, we have the both are.
You already have.
Yeah, there's a 2009, 2010. We have one actual pumper that is going to be delivered in December.
Okay, it was a pumper. I got it. Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Hudson, I want to go back to the pensions. All right, I'm not an accountant, obviously, but it doesn't seem to make sense to me that $2 million only in the fire pension would be increased because of cost of living. We're in a no inflation period. I don't, and we added so much money to our pension, right? We leased our water and sewer to put it into the pension fund. $2 million, it just cannot be explained away in the cost of living in a non-inflationary period.
2 things on that, Councilwoman Eichenwald. One, the water sewer lease and the monies that came from it essentially bought the city 3 years, because the monies that had come in from that were needed to shore up the valuations enough that it would be in a stable situation. There were assumptions.
What do you mean by bought 3 years?
Eventually, we were going to have to start contributing larger amounts in the pension.
Okay.
After a certain amount of time in which that had gotten settled in and payments had to come out.
And it seems that we're doing that, regardless.
There's one other thing in the assumptions, though, for fire, is that when the initial assumptions, I think, had been put in place, there was not some type of adjustment in there for cost of living for fire, and there was some arbitration that resulted from that. And the result of that arbitration and that adjustment is not going to have just a one-year effect, it's going to have effect over the lifetime of all of the individuals who are in the pension, because that will get factored into their salaries that are going to be determined what their pension is. And so a hit like that, just of that one adjustment, while it's not going to, there's not going to be another bump like that, that adjustment is going to have long-term effects each year on how much the pension payouts are.
So you're saying, you're telling me that this $2 million is a cost of living bump?
I am saying it is the lifetime benefits that we need to have in place based upon that bump.
That doesn't make any sense.
But from an actuarial standpoint, and I believe our actuary will be here tomorrow or Wednesday to speak in some detail on that, but that's how the actuarial calculations are done. You try to put that in as a general estimation over a long period of time.
So you're telling me that in previous years we had no cost of, there were years in which there's a huge cost of living increase, right? There's inflation, 5%, 4%, 6%, but that's not true in today's economy.
Again, I do not know.
I mean, this is enormous money. If you take this $2 million, just as Mr. Hendricks pointed out, you take this $2 million, we look at the next one, that's $3 million, and if you add up, if you go through this booklet and add up all the pension costs, there's your EIT increase.
Mm-hmm.
So I just need a better explanation than cost of living increase.
Well, I'm trying to give it, and I'm apparently not doing well enough. It was something that had.
I can only speak for myself.
I understand, but it's not just that one cost of living increase in a given year. It is that that's going to have an effect on the pensions of everybody who gets that increase as long as they live. And so all of that cost has to be factored into the long-term liability assumptions that are in the actuarial fund. And under the laws that exist, the city has to provide a certain amount of funding for the unfunded liability, and that is how the actuaries calculated it. It will not go there will not be another bump like that in future years, but this bump we knew was going to happen in 2016. It would have been even worse than that if it hadn't been for the lease, and now we just hope, and that amount will hold in for a significant period of time as part of the city's pension contribution.
No, it's not every year.
In the beginning, you said, folks, this is going to continue.
A bump, there's not going to be another shot up. But the bump that you have this year stays in place, yes.
And who does the calculations for this?
Chiron, our actuary, and they will be here later in the week if you want to ask them some questions. I'm sure they'd be happy to go into the details.
Because, I mean, it's such a huge thing. This is the 8th year in which I've looked at budgets, and I don't remember ever a year coming anywhere close to this, that there would be such a huge increase.
And again, I was not here dealing with the arbitration issue that resulted in it, and having the Chiron people here will, I'm sure, provide a little more clarity on that point.
Because when I asked this question last week, when we were discussing a different budget, you said there was one person in that, and that was $100,000.
Correct.
I mean, it seems that it's just so much across the board. So I would really like to have the opportunity to be informed from the actuarians about, this number. It just seems.
Certainly.
I don't know how everyone else feels, but this is a huge increase. Mr. Guarini, you've been here now 12 years. Have you ever seen in a year in which we put so much money into our budget?
Not necessarily. The only thing that I'm more hopeful about is that if we wouldn't have done the water and sewer lease, it would have been we would have been in a lot worse situation. We would have been talking about probably $25 million going into this. And I think this solves it a little bit, but you're saying every 2 years we have to put in $2 million? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure if that's what
I am saying is the increase that is hitting fire this year, which is in the neighborhood of $4 million, as a result of the arbitration decision to throw in a cost of living adjustment into the calculations of the benefits. Laying out that cost over the expected lifetime, years and years of when those people are going to draw down those benefits. That adjustment was going to require a significant bump up in the baseline of the fire pensions that we were going to start seeing in 2016. There's not going to be another shudder upwards on top of this, but the $4 million that's locked in this year, we will keep paying every year for the discernible future. This is
$1 million every year.
It's locking in that bump right here and then keeping that bump in place with smoothing, which you all passed earlier in the year to try to amortize that debt over 10 years so that we would have a more predictable pension cost.
So the pension liability will stay at that amount, or would it, because the state actually dictates how much we have to put in every year, doesn't it?
Well, if you're referring to PMRS, which is for many of the employees, that is true, but for our city's fire and police and O&E pension funds, we depend on what the actuaries tell us and make sure that we have enough to cover the unfunded liabilities. And so that's entirely with pension boards here and all that decision being made.
So the state doesn't actually say, hey, look, next year you have to put in X amount in addition to what you have. I thought it did.
The idea of going to the smoothing, which was made possible by doing the water sewer lease to have a high enough valuation already within the pension fund, was that we could deal with this increase and any other ones that might happen and spread out the overall cost of that over a 10-year period. There's not anticipated to be another jump up of another $4 million. The jump that we have this year is going to be in the baseline. And then the overall track that we have seen so far is maybe a very minimal increase year over year, but nothing like the bump that you're getting this year. But this bump indeed is part of the baseline now.
Okay.
All based on cost of living.
I would prefer at that point to let the actuaries explain it, because it's a matter of how much that's going to be calculated into lifetime benefits. So it's not only a one-year thing, it's that increase calculated over the lifetime of the pension benefits for those who are recipients and who get a higher rate of pension as a result of it. I'll let the actuaries explain that in more detail later in the week.
Right, as the king said in The King and I, it's a puzzlement. You know, it's just a puzzlement to me. The other question, this also just has to do with making it, I think, a fairer way in which we record it. I was told, and I know that this is a long-standing policy, we have a huge premium pay problem, right? But I was told by the chief that when we are reimbursed, the reimbursement goes into the general fund. It's not into the fire or the police.
That is my understanding, yes.
All right, and is there a hard and fast rule, accounting rule, why that would be so? Because it seems to me in most other businesses, when you give out and then you get back, you put it into that account.
Because we pay for fire expenses out of the general fund. So it makes perfectly logical sense that we're going to put the revenue that comes in from it in the same place. And that
Yeah,
doesn't...
but it doesn't, but maybe perhaps I didn't make, excuse me for interrupting, but maybe I didn't make myself clear. Like here it says, the premium pay, $1,388,000, right, $720. And then if we're reimbursed several, let's say $130,000 as we were this year, it doesn't show up in this number. So if hopefully we would be reimbursed more money, it gives a false impression about how much money is actually spent. Everything is literally paid out of the general fund.
Not everything, but in this case you have a good point. And we actually tried this year to incorporate from what we understood from fire and police the entirety of those reimbursements as part of the general fund revenue base that's in there this year.
So in other words, this number minus is what we will be reimbursed?
That is the overall cost going out minus whatever we're having coming in cash that we're already expecting that we put into the general fund revenue.
All right.
Yes.
And as long as it's reflected.
It is.
All right, because if not, it would be a very unfair number.
I would agree.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments from the public?
Thank you, Ms. Ivo. Lou Hirschman. On this cost of the pension funds, for, do they base it on 20 or 30 years? To fund the unfunded liability, right? An assumption, based on 20 or 30 years.
I'm seeing if she specified that in what I got from her. I can find that out pretty quickly. I just need to go and look at a couple of texts that I have to verify that.
If you know, you went stretch it to 30 years and change the assumption if it's 20 years, like Darrell said, costs went up. This could reduce the taxes required to fund the unfunded liability. So I don't know if it's too late to change the assumption to 20 to 30 years or 20 years. So, I mean, it's up to council. I'll just bring that point. The city council, as I know Darrell was concerned about it, and I think Darrell, this organization is a little nicer on it too. And we looked and stuff like that, 20 versus 30. Another thing is the fire department equipment. When I started on city council, we try to buy a fire truck every 4 years to keep up. So we had equipment that was running properly, because the way I understand, I don't know, I think my facts would be wrong. The equipment, when it gets over to the city garage, lays there a long time to get repaired. You know, we got a lot of big buildings going up in Center City. Providing the proper public safety from the fire department, I think we should look into, we have fire trucks that can respond to the fires, as the fire department has enough trucks to fight fires. I mean, if not, our citywide fire insurance is going up, you know, I guess the fire department is especially so often, right? And in my comment report says the city of Allentown doesn't have sufficient firefighting equipment, and our fire insurance is going to go up. I think council got to look into to see that we have enough fire equipment to fight fires. Thank you.
Well, you said that we have 2 ladder trucks and we're getting another truck.
Well,
How many pumpers do we have now?
We have 7 pumpers, but we have 4 pumpers, frontline pumpers that are extremely old and are very hard to get parts for. That's kind of delaying the fixing of them. I'm actually going to present a plan, hopefully, to the mayor and the finance director for possibly 2 more pumpers to come in, and it won't affect the budget the way I'm looking at it. That we're going to go through start of 2016 to try to hammer that out, to see if we get 3 new pumpers to come in. That would shore up our fleet and bring it up to what it needs to be.
How much did it cost?
The pumpers, anywhere from about $546,000. That's the engine 6 that's coming in December is what it costs.
And the ladder trucks cost about what?
1.1 million.
1 million? 1.1. So we bought a couple in the last, like 5 or 6 years.
In 2009 and 2010, they're having issues, but the ladder trucks do have issues. And I think it's just I think we're switching to a different manufacturer that doesn't have those issues. They cost a little bit more on the front end, but as far as the maintenance, they're extremely low compared to the other ones.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we have the plans to build a couple of more buildings, but I think if we can target the PPL, we're not going to be taller than the PPL building, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Well, the one that 33 stories tall, I'm not sure that's going to ever happen, but.
And that's why we're going to, you know, like I said, this contract is a foundation, and hopefully, in the next, agreement, we can get up to 27 and put our second ladder truck in service. That's something, you know, as the city grows, hopefully the fire department can grow as well.
So many personnel as well?
Yes, 2 more personnel would put 27 on shift instead of 25.
But you don't have any minimum this time? No minimum.
Excuse me?
You don't have any minimum staffing at this time?
No.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have a question for Mr. Drexel or Jeanette, the committee chairwoman. What are the assets, and I'm talking about the fire pension fund, what are the assets to liability numbers right now? Or will we get that tomorrow?
Please, ask Mr. Hart. I mean, I could repeat what you said, but I think for efficiency's sake, you may speak
You have
directly
that
to
number?
Mr. Hart.
Not on the top of my head, what I do know is that the assets that we have in our 3 funds, fire, police, and O&E, all range between 89% and 96% of the liabilities. specific dollar amounts for each of the funds I can get for you very quickly, once I get back up to my office.
Are you going to be at the meeting tomorrow for the pension? Is that tomorrow?
Yes,
You will have it then?
yes.
Okay, I'll be there to see you then. Because, and then the 4 million you're talking about is gonna really add into the asset ratio sometime through 2016? Is that correct or not?
It is, the understanding, Mr. Hunziker, is that from the actuarial calculations, because of this adjustment due to the arbitration, that is going to have a long-term effect on the amount of cost of pensions, the annual liabilities of the plan go up by about 4 million a year, and so we have to bake that in not only for this year, but for every year in perpetuity, because we're expecting that there will be increased payouts for a significant period of time.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying in 2016, we're gonna have a $4 million approximately liability increase in the fire fund by itself. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And, so you expect to put in $4 million. So the end of next year, we can come here and say, did you put the 4 million into that fund? We'll know from the pension board that it was either put in or it wasn't. Is that correct?
Our assumption would be that if this is what the actuary tells us that we need to put in, we will put it in, because we need to be sure whatever the unfunded liabilities are, that there is adequate money provided from the city to cover those in every single year.
I mean, for many years, we were running an MMO, a ratio down around 40, 50%, well, 45 to 50%. We're running about 90% in the last year or so.
Mhm.
And you want to try to keep that at 90, I guess.
That is correct.
That's
This is
what you're
what's
trying to do.
needed to do to keep it.
But since the city's in such dire needs for this money, and I don't see where you're gonna get 4.5 million next year unless you go to another EIT increase, I mean, I'd like to see the long-range planning on the finances of this city, because I don't see where you're gonna get it. I mean, well, you can raise taxes, but, I mean, you're gonna have to, sooner or later, you don't have much left to raise. EIT you can do, again. So, I mean, we gotta get the money someplace. Or we have to let that liability increase and let that percentage of 89% or so slip down a little bit.
Those are the
So that we
options.
can get some more funds in there.
Those would be the options.
So even by rating the solid waste fund, that's a one-time deal. If you go back and look at the contracts, that fund was being, we're not talking about that, but anyway, I wouldn't want to be in your position, I guess. I don't know. This is a tough one. It's not your fault. I'm just asking the questions. But, well, hopefully tomorrow we can get some of those answers. And the other thing is, years ago, I guess a year or two ago, we had an actuarial report in September. Well, we didn't perform one of those this year, did we? Or did we? Or did we not? We did. Unless you requested it.
Did we do it after the report last year?
Okay, thank you.
An actual report last year, did we do one?
I'm
An
sorry.
actual report last year, did we do one?
Oh, and there is one that is done on an annual basis, and yes, there is availability, and I believe that Chiron had provided those to council as well as to us? Yeah, I believe so. I was looking at Mike, and so there are copies available, and I have extras if you need them.
Yes.
John Strabile, 2629 Chew Street, President of the Firefighters Local. I apologize, Councilman Glazer, because I've heard this before. It's very confusing, and I'll try and explain it to add on to what the finance director said. It's confusing. When benefit improvements were made to the fire pension fund of the 2005 through 2011 contract, those benefit improvements were for active members. Under Act 44 of 2009, which enhanced Act 205 of whatever year, which was the Municipal Pension Recovery Plan, you were allowed to take those costs and amortize them over 15 years or 20 years. So it's like getting a 15-year or 20-year mortgage. When we went to court and all future retirees were going to get COLA. The courts said no, only 2005 through 2011. What the city elected to do is take the immediate benefit of eliminating that benefit for the future after 2011 retirees. So if you retire in 2013, you don't get it. So there was an actuarial savings as a result of the court case. As the court case went up to the next level, it was appealed, and the Superior Court upheld the COLAs for just that small group of 2005 through 2011 retirees. But either PERC, Pennsylvania Employee Retirement Commission, or the actuary said that once you reinstate the benefit, those people are already retired. They're no longer active. So you cannot amortize that new cost over 15 or 20 years. You have to immediately assume that cost for 1 year. Meaning, if you increase the retirees' pension benefits tonight, you have to pay for that cost this year. You cannot pay for it like a mortgage. So what the city did, and I disagreed with that, and when we moved the sewer funds around, I wanted to take into consideration if we would lose that case, that not enough money went into the fire fund. Well, not enough money went into the fire fund. So where we are now is we have the city elected to take a 10-year rolling amortization, which they're allowed under the law, which smooths out your gains and smooths out your losses. If the pension fund, and I use abstract examples to make it a little more understandable, if the pension fund did, if the stock market did a 50% increase tomorrow, and we were 150% funded, you could not realize that. You have to smooth that out over 10 years. That's what they elected to do. So I take a little bit of exception that it's not $4 million, it's entirely because of the COLAs. There were some other funding issues that related to it. And there's one thing that you'll hear if you come to, you can listen to the actuary tomorrow. Act 44 of 2009 also had a discount to the cities. You only had to fund 75% of your MMO. It was like an extra break on the minimum payment on your credit card. That's coming to an end too. So that's why you're seeing some of these MMO increases. So, and it was explained, we assume we're gonna make 8%. We're gonna make 8% on $100 million in the fire pension fund, and we don't make $8 million, it has to be picked up by somebody else. So when fiduciary responsibility is we reduced that 8% down to 7 3/4, which is more reflective of the investment earnings we're getting from the stock market and bonds. That increases the MMO. Pay me now, pay me later. What I think Councilman Glazer can tell you is that we don't want to get into a position where we become increasingly underfunded. Because if we don't make the investments we're supposed to, it's just going to get worse. So it may have been, and municipalities all over the Commonwealth are reducing their expected annual rate of return. So it's not all the COLA, but it certainly had to be realized, and I wish we had done it differently. I asked the pension board to do it differently way back when. I was only one man vote.
When you said 10 years, who sets that 10-year rate limit?
The action.
The amortization over 10 years.
Act 44 and Act 205.
All right, so it cannot be longer than that. It's 10 years set by law.
Yes, you were allowed, the way the city utilized their legal right is to roll that over 10 years. It can't be any longer. They made changes in Act 44, which made it more punitive for, like I said, the retirees. You used to be able to pay the retirees, I think, over 3 years. You had a retiree benefit, you have 3 years. So they made it more restrictive. You're bound by the law for the 10-year rolling period.
Okay, so what you're telling me is it's not merely the cost of living, all right? It's all of the benefits that are accruing and that you have to pay past retirees.
Yeah,
and that's why this amount is so much higher.
Yeah,
All right, well, that makes
the
sense.
accounting
I'm
way
not
they
happy
did
to hear it, but it makes more sense.
You are correct when you say that we're in a low inflationary period right now, so that $4 million is not for this year or next year. That's the cost of future benefits. If a retiree lives till 80.
For the actual benefit, not for the cost of living. All right, that makes more sense. Thank you.
How to do?
Very well.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for clarifying that, by the way,
All
I
right,
appreciate it.
I get it. Doesn't make me happy, but I get it.
Nor I.
Any other comments? Mr. Trotner?
Thank you. Robert Trotner, 1920 Whitehall Street. I represent our PAC, which is the Community Action Reform Team. I first want to say, I'm here mostly about the EIT tax tonight. Until we get hard figures, I just want to talk about the EIT tax. The other stuff we're going to be working on, we're going to be analyzing the budget as soon as we have hard figures, and we're going to come to some.
Okay, but tonight I can only take comments on the fire budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I just want to say the EIT is an attack on the working class of Allentown. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. No problem, but I can only take comments on this budget. Any other comments?
Can I ask a question about the EMS?
Yeah, we're gonna do EMS.
Oh, we're gonna do EMS.
Okay, we're gonna do a second, we're gonna do EMS. Now.
I'll let,
Okay, should we do EMS now?
Sure, I'll let,
All right, why don't
Brian
we
first
do
come up.
that?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I guess just to give you a quick, brief overview of where our page of the budget landed. As far as the staffing, we're still funded at 24 full-time paramedics. We saw the 4 shift supervisors and myself, the building department, so our staffing level is the same as it was last year. When you look at the numbers in the budget that do not pertain to the payroll, it only has gone up around 1,700. We accomplished that, we took a little out of the training account, and the other contract services we were able to reduce, which allowed us to increase some money in the repairs and maintenance, and also increase our equipment fund to continue on what we started as far as replacing some equipment and looking at some new technologies. Just so you know where we're at, the call line for the year, and I looked at this for calendar year, this year till the end of October when I ran the last statistics. The city crews have handled an increase in calls of up to 811. As of the end of October, we handled 12,803 calls for service. While it's going on, you always ask about the mutual aid numbers. Those are actually holding very even to last year. At the end of October, we had mutual aid trucks in the city 427 times. Last year, by the end of October, we had them in 426. So that only went up by 1. We're obviously continuing our support of the special teams as far as the fire department bomb squad, the hazmat team. We have medics assigned to the police ERT team. We will still be having our presence as we have since they came to town over at the Iron Pig Stadium for services for next year. With that, I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Mr. Kawita, you said you had questions?
Yeah, just, so are you okay with your 24? What is it, 24? 24, yeah, paramedics. That's something that, I mean, years ago we used to have, we had long meetings in regards to EMS and EMTs and how is it working? That is what I want to know.
Those talks with the EMTs that you mentioned were obviously before my time. Yeah, when we added the shift supervisors, our numbers, we added the 4 shift supervisors and it went to 24 paramedics. That's what we've had for the past, I believe it started in 2012. And I know we were looking at the numbers last year and we were trying to give you the updates as to where that was. Myself, as any other department in the city, would certainly, if you were asking, do you need more people? Well, I think any department in the city would answer yes to that.
I'm more asking how you do it. I mean, is it bearable? Is it unbearable? Is it, I mean, are you okay with the EMT as opposed to, what was the other?
We never got EMTs, we were 100% still paramedics. You know,
What were the?
that never happened.
What were they called before? Paramedics.
Yes,
You don't have any EMTs?
No.
Okay. So are you okay with not having any EMTs? I guess that's.
Yes, because that allows us to maintain 100% paramedics.
We don't want EMTs.
Well, you don't know that.
Yes, I do know that.
That was a long discussion, we came out with the answer, we want to remain 100% paramedics. That's what we're looking for.
The budget may not dictate so, but I support you. Sounds like you're okay with everything. You have no major issues, right?
The only thing I will point out is we were able to maintain the number at 24 this year. Like I said, the city crews have increased. By the end of the year, I would predict that we're going to be increased probably close to 1,000 calls over what we ended last year with. Somewhere along the way, we probably need to start the conversations about looking to increase as far as how that's working on us. The crews are doing a great job right now. As I was able to say in statistics I gave you, we went up 811 calls that the city crews handled. We only let the mutual aid number go up by 1. And that's times mutual aids coming into the city. At the same time, last year, I ran it just to give you some numbers. Last year, we were asked about 45 times to go out and handle a call in Lake County. This year, we're up to probably around 90. So the request for us to leave the city and assist other agencies is going up also.
I'm gonna ask you I don't want it to open a can of worms, let's put it this way, but just this rhetorical question and you can answer as such. Are you feeling comfortable being with the fire department versus the police department?
As far as myself and being in management, I've only been under the fire department. I'm comfortable there. Under that, if you remember in the past, we were actually answered to the managing director, we answered to the police department.
Every 4 or 5 years, we change.
Every 4 or 5 years, you change us. I'm comfortable. I think if we ever would entertain a change, I think it would be to put us back out on our own. Kind of like where we were. When we were, prior to being under the fire department, if you remember, we were under the police, then somewhere along the way, we answered to the managing director in there and back under the fire department. I guess that's my honest answer to you on that one. But as far as helping support, I have no problem. Yeah, we still are in the fire department.
No, literally. In the bottom of it. Okay. That's, you know, obviously those are questions that throughout the years we've been going back and forth, and it looks like it's working out okay now. So, you know, you're in a new firehouse, so that's.
We're not there. We're not over on the east side. Our trucks are at Central, Hibernia, and Mac.
You don't have any trucks at the new firehouse that we just built a couple of years ago?
No, our trucks, the two 24-hour trucks run out of Central, so they're Center City and they can get everywhere. The 2 peak-hour trucks run out of Mac South.
So you don't have any trucks at the east side right now?
No, our truck's at Hibernia, the next station, the next
right
station
on
over.
the bridge over there.
Yeah, the Hibernia truck's one of our peak-hour trucks.
And that works out okay, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they're the first ones, when they're at Hibernia, they're the first ones going over to any call on the east side.
Yeah, they're the closest.
I have a question.
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Ms. Mota?
Thank you, Mrs. Icomo. As we all know, our population has grown, our city have grown in population and in diversity. And this is what I was wondering, why have the CPR classes ceased? I think that, you know, we did a great job, you know. It was what, the Health Bureau with EMS, and we had, you know, the bilingual CPR classes going on, and I think that it was working okay.
That was the emphasis of where that started was with the Health Bureau. And actually, to be honest, I wanted to get with them and see if there was a way that we could restart that. because the funding that was coming from that was actually coming from those guys.
I would like to see that happening.
I believe they were getting off of a grant they had that was allowing us to get the course materials to run those.
And I think that we both did a great job, don't you think? I mean, a lot of people were showing up. We had a lot of churches, clergy, I mean, you name it. A lot of people in the community showed up for those CPR classes.
They were, and actually when I went to the regional EMS council meetings, I was actually asked how we were pulling it off to get people to actually show up. Because other places tried it and weren't as fortunate as we were for the turnout we were getting.
So can we talk with the Health Bureau to have this happen?
Absolutely, I'll look into that for you.
Okay, and you know that you can count on me 120% when it comes to teaching, you know, along with you, those classes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Eichelwald. I was pointed out by Ms. Eichelwald when Fire Chief was on, Chief Laba, $1,368,720 for premium pay. Do you have an estimate of, it says covers EMS also, do you have an estimate of what your premium pay would be? Yeah.
Give me 1 second, I do. I think it's about 450, but I want to confirm that. 447,000. Yeah, 447.
Okay, I see. This is just, you know, like our paramedics, I mean, we all know there's Citroen ambulance corps out there. Do any of our paramedics, and you don't have to answer this, do any of our paramedics, like when they're off duty, like kind of help out Citroen? Are they allowed to do that? I mean, is there?
Some do have part-time jobs outside of here. You'll find that actually industry-wide in EMS.
Okay.
It's the way it is. As far as where they have them, that I couldn't exactly tell you.
That's part of the industry?
Yeah, I couldn't think of a service out there that they didn't have some of their staff working part-time at another place.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Sure.
No comment.
Mr. Hendricks?
Thank you, Madam. Chief, you had mentioned that you have crews assigned to the Iron Pigs, and I believe you also have them at the arena, is that correct?
No. What happened with the arena is, as part of their, I want to use the word sponsorship, Leon Hospital provides the health services in the arena itself. Yeah. What happens is if they have somebody that they need to have transported out, they dial 911 just like any other city business would, and then our truck goes and does the transport.
Okay. And for your crews that are assigned to the Iron Pigs, they are reimbursed by the Iron Pigs, is that correct?
Oh, yes, we are reimbursed by the Iron Pigs.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly.
Yes, Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mrs. Eichenwald. As long as we're talking about reimbursement, can one of you tell us where that reimbursement shows up in the revenues?
It's in the miscellaneous column, general fund.
That
And
shows
so
up
I,
under miscellaneous.
there is the item, we was, even with all of the qualifications that we had in trying to lay out certain things, the types of revenues that come in from reimbursements, I don't know if it's historic, but that's where we've placed them. I'll get some more detail exactly about how that works out, what compiles it for you.
That's a pretty broad category.
It is.
You had mentioned, sir, that you responded to about 12,000 calls, or you will respond to about 12,000 calls this year?
Yeah, well, we're actually at the 12,000 mark.
Now, okay.
At the end of October.
About how many of those are you able to bill for?
A bill is generated by every call, and then it depends a lot on what insurance the patient would have as to what revenue you can expect to get back. We just actually sat down with Brent the other day and explained some of this. I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate on that.
In the detail,
Yeah.
there will be an item under Revenue 6170 that lays it out in detail, including
That's miscellaneous, isn't it?
It is, but it also has it listed in there, everything that comes as part of that. So the $35,000 for the iron pigs is one of those items.
I'll go back and look at that. Thank you, you expect about $3 million worth of revenue this year coming in for service charges. About what percentage of the bills that you send out get paid? I'm not looking for a full invoice payment, but where you get something back on the bill.
I'm trying to work that because the lady who, Suzanne, who handles our billing, couldn't be here this evening. Like I said, it all depends on which one. I can get you a percentage that we come back. But there's some, depending on what they have, and then with the city ordinance, the residents don't have to contribute, there's no balance billing toward them.
It seems that you guys try to do a very good job of covering your costs, but it's still, and it's an important service, but also an expensive one. So it's nice to see that the effort's being made to make a significant contribution toward those costs. In terms of, and this is a non-budgetary thing, with the Tillman Street Bridge going to be closed sometime next year, will that affect the stationing of an ambulance at Hibernia in terms of servicing the east side?
I think that's something we'll have to look at when it comes up. I'm not sure how everything will work with the other bridge being open to see what would actually be the best access to get over to there. What you wind up having with that truck, if they do like probably half their calls in Hibernia, east side, maybe a third of them, and the rest of the time they're usually running calls in Center City also. So I think that's something we need to look at as far as how the actual effect is going to be with the bridge being closed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Eichenwald.
Any other questions?
Just a quick, so is the south side, what's the name of that one?
Max out.
No, the other one here on Susquehanna.
Oh, the Fearless.
Fearless. That's not too hard for them. There was a fire, let's say, for instance, in the south side of the east side kind of thing, by the park over there. I mean, can they get over there as well to the Hamilton Street Bridge? It's not too far.
Yeah, the Hamilton Street Bridge would be open, but even our Hibernia trucks on the west side. So if they have to go to the south side from there, they just go down American Parkway.
I mean, for by Carlisle Street or up there.
Yeah, they do that routinely now. They'll go down and go across the Hamilton Street Bridge to access that side.
There were a fire there by Carlisle Street. You would send the one at Harvina right now, right?
For an EMS call? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the one at the Hibernia truck.
So let me just to clear up. You have an EMS truck at every station besides the east side?
No, the EMS vehicles are only at the Lorena Central, which houses the two 24-hour trucks. Max South, on the south side of Lehigh MLT, has a truck that runs from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, and Hibernia has a truck that runs from 11 in the morning to 11 at night. Those are the only stations we're at.
So there's no in the west side. In the west side of Allentown, there's no trucks over there.
There's no truck out at the West End Firehouse. The West End calls are covered by the trucks out of Central.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hartzell, my question is, in the mayor's PowerPoint presentation, he stated that there was a 24% increase in 2016 in the health care costs. All right, so I could ask you the question at any moment, but I'll do it while we're talking about EMS, just because the figures are smaller, maybe more manageable. So the insurance for EMS for last year was $535,000. All right, for this year, it's 571.
Mhm.
And it was the same kind of ratio, percentage for fire and for police. Where does this 24% figure come from? For healthcare?
The 24% is actually spread over a number of years. I think he had gone back to look at about 5 years overall.
No,
what the
he
overall
says that
cost
it was
was.
17% over the years. It says overall since 2010.
Since 2010.
Healthcare has increased 17%.
It's 2010.
All right. For the 2015 A&E figure, 24% for the proposed 2016 figure.
Probably from the 2010 base. That had gone up that much, and
And
we were going
because
to
this
go
was
again.
given as the rationale for the increased EIT tax.
It's an even greater percentage if you're only hitting the general fund, because that 24% increase over 6 years was buffered somewhat in previous years by larger contributions when there was a water fund, a sewer fund. The increase in the general fund contribution is actually quite a lot more than 24% over that period.
So are you saying because we no longer have the water and sewer, that's what necessitates this huge increase?
I am saying that this huge increase was going to happen because the overall costs of insurance, and I'm not going to necessarily try to bring Mr. Marchetto into this, but the overall costs of insurance have been going up at a fairly steady rate, at least 6% per year in recent years. And whereas other funds could defray some of that expense from the general fund in previous years, it's not happening now.
But why did the mayor state that it's a 24% increase this year? And I don't see that in any of the healthcare.
It's not a 24% increase over this year, it's a 7% increase from 2015 to 2016. The
I'd say, let me
24
get this clear, the 7% increase in healthcare costs necessitates this huge increase in the EIT tax?
I'm not commenting on what the mayor is doing with his taxes or not doing with his taxes. What I'm explaining is that from 2010 to 2015, healthcare costs have risen 17%. From 2015 to 2016, they're going up additional 7%, the 24% number that the mayor is quoting. So, I mean, that number is that number. I mean, the healthcare number in our budget has gone from $15.9 million to 17, almost 17.1 million. I believe it's 17 flat budget. So that's your 7%. That money, at $17 million, is allocated across the entire population of employees as per head count, and including, and in that 17 million is also included retiree health care costs. So that $17 million covers our entire budgeted healthcare costs for medical prescriptions, ASO fees, stop loss coverage. That's that number.
I mean, but I still feel it's a bit ingenuous to say that our citizens are going to have to pay 24% higher increase in their EIT tax. And don't forget, this is really very, very difficult for people who are on the lower earnings spectrum because of healthcare costs. I mean, I'm talking to the wrong people, right? I need to discuss this one. Hopefully the mayor will come the night that we pass the budget. But I'm just making that point that I expected when I looked at the figures that I would see a huge increase from 2015 to 2016 in healthcare that would necessitate people paying more in their EIT taxes.
Was it only $2 million that went up on this from 2015 to 2016?
It's a small percentage that went up in each of the budgets. The big thing was, I don't know about those figures, you can never, I'm looking at the individual, we'll see it when we look at the police too. You'll see that of course there's an increase in healthcare costs, but not a huge one. So why are we told that citizens are gonna have to pay more EIT tax based on healthcare, which is the buzzword of the moment?
Healthcare and pension.
The only clarification I would make to that, Ms. Eichenwald, is that it is not merely the health insurance cost, but also the pension increase, which we have talked about in some detail. All of that together is the explanation for why this is.
I'm only quoting, but that's not what was stated in the mayor's PowerPoint. You know, in the PowerPoint, it gives the reason for the EIT increase as healthcare costs, so I'm just saying that this needs something to be discussed. Okay, anything else on EMS? Anything from the public? Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? I have handouts. Yay. There you go. Bill Sames, Executive, Zone Steward, SDIU, also City Safety Committee, which I bring that up because I think what I'm about to tell you is getting to be a safety issue. I worked with the Allentown paramedics for 16 years now. Most of you have known me. The front page is just some fun facts about pretty much what Brian has already outlined. My figures were from mid-October, so they're a little bit different, but they do all come to the same conclusion. We're looking at about 1,000 more calls this year. I think what I would like to add to that is if you look at previous years, I think Brian will agree to me, we usually went up about 300 to 400 calls a year, maybe give or take. Is that fair assumption? Maybe around 300 average. So we have 700 additional calls this year alone, okay? To answer your question, Councilman, about whether or not we're maintaining or is it bearable, to us on the street, it's getting to be unbearable. I'm not gonna lie. We've had some injuries come up, we've had some sick people come up, that it prolongs, you know, and inflates the overtime budget. And I can't help but think that just because of the sheer numbers of calls that we're doing, it's just wearing us down and making us more tired. And if you think about it, the tired you get, sometimes you just may not make those snap decisions as fast as usual. Not that we're making wrong decisions, not that we're practicing unsafe out there yet, but I think we're starting to raise awareness that that's a path we don't want to go down, and that's what our concern is right now. If you look at the page, now I know a lot of this looks like gibberish. The graphs that I put in the back are just simply calls that we've done over the years. As Brian had stated out, as you see in 2014, there's a number there for mid-October, and then you look at the next page, that's 2015's calls to mid-October, and that's what I had at mid-October, plus 786 calls so far this year. I think Brian, you said it was up to 811 at the end of October. But the page I'd really like you to kind of take in context is the third page. Now the top part is for, I'm sorry, do you want one of these? Yeah. The top page is, I guess I should give you guys. The top of the page you really can't go by because we are a transport ambulance service. Okay, now this is firehouse based. We are firehouse based technically. But the non-transport ambulances are ambulances just go on calls and then somebody else does their transport. That's not us. We do our transports, we do our own calls. So forget the top part of the page. The bottom part of the page where it says fire department busiest ambulance, and those ambulances are transport. 4 people that report to firehouse.com, which is what this is off of, okay? Our trucks, as it's broken down, the 2 central trucks especially, because they're the 24-hour trucks and that's what this chart is based off, we could be the 13th busiest truck in the city. Or in the United States, I'm sorry. 13th busiest truck in the United States. And if you look at the cities that are below us, okay, Dallas, Houston, Milwaukee, St. Petersburg, Florida, some pretty big names there, okay? And that's not to say they're doing less calls than us. That's saying that they have the staffing that instead of their trucks doing 10, 12 calls in a 12-hour shift like we're doing, they're doing 5 or 6, okay? That's longevity, that's less wear and tear on our people, that's less wear and tear on our personnel. All right, everybody understand that, okay? If you were to take our 4 ambulances, now if you go back to the graphs that I showed you, you see obviously that the high burning and max top trucks do considerable less calls, but again, they're 12-hour trucks, where the central trucks are 24, okay? But even if you were to, figuratively wise, take those trucks and add them into 24 and double their call volume, even if you were to take all 4 trucks for our total amount of calls for the year and divide it equally amongst the 4 trucks, it still puts us about the 24th. Any of those trucks would be like the 24th busiest truck in the nation. All right, and I just think that number is really astounding. It really is. And another number I like to throw it out to you that really gets me is we've had an increase of 10.5% in the city's population according to the census in 2010. We're already up to 2015, so that we're halfway into the census. That put the population of the city of Allentown, reported by the census, at 118,000 people. Now, we all know there's probably close to about 100, 135 in the city of Allentown that are living here. Okay, not everybody puts out to the census the way they're supposed to. I don't have a number of how many people come into this city daily. I know it's getting to be more and more with everything we're doing. I love the way the city's going. I was born and raised here. I love what we're doing for the city, and I think it's fantastic. However, we've got to prepare for more and more people coming to our city and living in our city. We're putting up more high rises, more apartment buildings. We're just gonna, obviously, we're gonna increase the population. Fire chief alluded to it, I'm sure the police chief's gonna allude to it too, that the more people we get in the city and the more and more calls we're gonna get, we're gonna need to properly staff those people. All right? So with that said, we have at night, between 11 and 6 in the morning, 4 paramedics, 4 of us, for nearly 120,000 people reported. During the day, we have 9, but that could be 150, 160, it could be maybe 200,000 people in the city at any given time, depending on what events are going on, and what's going on with the arena, or who's coming to work, and all that stuff, okay? If you think about that, that's pretty astonishing. 9 paramedics for 200,000 people, 4 paramedics at night for 120,000 people, so we get taxed. Now, one more number, Brian alluded to, 1 mutual aid call. We gave up 1, we're doing almost 800 more calls, we've only given away 1 mutual aid call. We're doing more with less. I hear the mayor every year, more with less, more with less, more with less. We're doing more with less. I don't know what else we can do. Okay, it's gonna catch up to us eventually, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Doubling our calls going out into the county under the new act, 47. The new act that came out, 47, 35, thank you. It says we have to go on these calls. If the county calls us and we can't turn these calls down, okay, and that's regulated by the state. All right, so these are just things to look at. As a worker, I'm imploring and begging to please consider upping our staff. I know everybody here is, with all these budget talks and everything, the EIT tax is going on and pensions and stuff, I get it. But I don't know how much longer we can go before something seriously, I don't want something seriously to go wrong from a safety standpoint. Okay, and I don't want to take up everybody's time tonight, but I'd be more than willing to talk or have down a meeting with anybody, and we could, discuss it further if need be. So, unless you have any questions for me, thank you.
I'm sorry, you're asking for an additional person or an additional?
On the second page is some things that we were throwing around, and these were absolutely informal, just like I put in there. These were just some ideas, nothing's been said, nothing said this is a set number. I always shoot for the moon. I would love to see like 8 more additional staff. I know that's a little bit far-fetched, but that's just, again, shooting for the moon. I think 5 would be perfect for us. It would definitely staff a truck. The only time we would go back down to 2 trucks is only between 3 and 7 in the morning, which traditionally the city kind of starts to knock down and fall asleep at those hours, okay? But it would also increase our trucks from 3 to 4 between the hours of 7 in the morning and 11 in the morning. And again, that's just one scenario. There's a couple different possibilities. Brian and I had just informally had kicked around some ideas. By no means am I, in any position to make those decisions. That's Brian's job. But these things, he's nice enough to come and ask his staff all the time, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Do you have any ideas?
Quick question. Well, you're asking for 5 people. I know you want 8 or something. Let's say, have you had any situation, or can you give us any situation where people's life were in jeopardy because of the shortness of the 5 people? Was there 1 or 2 situations you can mention?
No, I can't. However, I can tell you numbers of calls that we've gone on where we might be leaving Lehigh Valley, Cedar Crest from all the way out on the west end, and we're the only truck available, and a call comes in on the east side of Allentown. Okay? So think about if you're short of breath and you can't breathe, however long it takes us, even at 3 o'clock in the morning, if it only takes us 7, 8 minutes because there's no traffic, hold your breath for 7 or 8 minutes, or breathe through a small tiny straw for 7, 8 minutes and feel like you're short of breath. Okay? I don't know, you're never gonna find a number that sits there and says, this person would have lived if they were there 1 minute earlier, if they were there 2 minutes earlier. But I know I've been on several calls where we get there and they say he was fine like 3 minutes ago. I know he was complaining of chest pains, or he looked really sick, or he started vomiting, so I called 911, and then all of a sudden, right before he got here, he passed out, and we get him in cardiac arrest. So are there times that we could get there earlier and maybe make it better? Absolutely, but I don't know, never know how you would ever be able to figure those statistics out.
That's the reason why I'm asking the question, not to put you on the spot.
Right.
I mean, I remember back in, I don't know, might have been about probably 10 years ago, when a guy on 7th Street, and you've been around for a while, a guy on 7th Street between Gordon and Liberty, died.
He was shot in the leg.
He was shot in the leg,
Yeah,
and it was
absolutely.
because of not having an ambulance there.
Right, because the ambulance was coming from Lehigh Valley Cedar Crest that day, correct?
It took like 15 minutes or something.
And that's an absolute perfect example. He bled out in front of the cops. By the time the ambulance got there, he was unconscious. By the time we got him to the hospital, he had coded, he died. He succumbed to his injuries.
That's what I mean, that kind of
Right.
situation. I mean, luckily you haven't had any of that. Dynamics.
No, and when we do have those fortunately, it's low, but still, it's, you know what I mean? To me, these are things that can be prevented if we were just, you know, properly. I'm not saying, you know, I just feel we just need a few more staff members to just be able to, we haven't had a staff increase since 2004. Okay, that's 11 years now. If we don't, you know, if we were, in my eyes only, opinionated, if we were to increase the staff by 5, I think that would last us maybe 5, at least 5, 6, maybe 10 more years. We'd be able to handle that. You put those numbers together, you're looking at 20, 21 years, you hired 5 paramedics, over the course of 10 to 21 years.
It's
Or,
something,
21 years.
it's something that
You know?
I'm interested in looking more into, but I mean, obviously,
And most of you have been here when we were going through the EMT debacle, you know, and stuff, and you remember the battles that we had with that and stuff like that, but every year since then, I've come up here and said, you know, we were supposed to get more staff, we were supposed to get, and we were getting, you know, wait till the money comes in, wait till the sewer was done, wait till the bonds were paid off, and again, we've been doing more with less, but we're starting to get stressed. The one main injury that I have from one of my guys is he's still out with a concussion. I know this man very well, one of my very good friends for years and years and years, and the slight mistake he made by approaching somebody from a different angle, I think is what caused his injury. He was kicked in the head, he's not unconscious. He's been out for about 3 or 4 months now, he's coming back with a concussion. But I was kind of shocked to see how he approached the individual that was high on synthetic drugs. And I think might have been just a little slip of mistake on his part that cost him. It wasn't, you know, and again, I just can't help but think, is this because of the amount of work we're doing, how much we're working, how much we're taxed, and that fatigue kicks in. And it just makes you not have that split second decision making all the time.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate the time.
Are there any, thank you very much. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, then we'll move on to police. Chief? Yes, welcome, Chief.
Good evening. Mrs. Eichenwald, I'm here to go over the personnel changes for the police department. You'll have a budget memo in front of you. I believe you received it earlier today. There are a few changes. Formerly, the executive secretary, who had retired when shortly after, around the time Chief McLean left, was not filled. Chief Morris is now going to fill that position, or we're going to fund it, and due to a few retirements and some resignation, there was a Clerk 3 position that is going to be eliminated. We've also corrected the salary for the police chief in the budget to what was proposed earlier when Chief Morris took command. And in addition, there's a lieutenant position being eliminated and a new captain of administration being created. And the reason for that change is the lieutenants were formerly outside of the bargaining unit. Now they are included in the bargaining unit. I believe in 2011 they came back in. And Chief Morris would like to have a administrative non-union position in second in command in that chain of operational flow chart. So that is being added in. In addition, and that results, as you can see on the screen, it results in a net savings in a permanent wage account of a little bit over $7,000. Also, I'm here to speak for an ancillary issue that was brought up regarding the 9/11 fund. After reviewing comments from council and discussing the matter with Mike Hilbert, we were able to reinstate the lead dispatcher position and add the other 911 dispatcher position. In addition, how we accomplished that was we negotiated an agreement with the union to eliminate 4 911 lead dispatcher positions and return them back to the 911 dispatcher position. What that helps us do is allows for exchange of duty jobs between those functions. And so we believe we were able to accommodate council's wishes in that regard. And they're slated in for $1, the reinstatements, because as Mr. Hilbert said, he doesn't know what his actual funding from the state is until July. So once he gets an understanding of how much funding's coming in, he can then fill those positions or do what they need to do with those positions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marqueta. Any questions for Mr. Marqueta? Okay, thank you. Chief?
All right, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. It's a great pleasure that I'm before you today to discuss the 2016 budget for the Allentown Police Department. 2015 was without a doubt a successful year for APD as we made great strides towards implementing positive change while achieving our organizational goals. At the forefront was another drop in crime. Citywide, we have experienced a 19% decrease in Part 1 crimes, a 15% decrease in violent crimes, and a 20% decrease in property crimes. It's important to note that this decrease occurred while still being well below our authorized staffing level. Our background investigators worked diligently this year and were able to hire an additional 13 officers. However, due to 4 retirements and the attrition of 5 others, our staffing remains at 213. I'd like to publicly acknowledge the work and commitment of all the great men and women of the Allentown Police Department, as the significant decrease in crime under these circumstances is a true testament to their hard work and dedication. In 2015 and 2016 recruiting year, we will be taking every step possible to reach our full complement of police officers. Our recruiters will be taking a very active approach towards building a police department that mirrors the tremendous diversity of our great city. Aside from the normal college and career fairs, we have had an increased focus on high schools, churches, community groups, and military organizations. A few examples are presentations at our high school ROTC programs, upcoming multicultural leadership seminar, and career fairs for members of the military returning from active duty. I've been asked numerous times by council how we can better recruit members of our own community, and partnerships with our local stakeholders are helping us achieve that goal, as a Live Near Your Work program was recently extended to the Allentown Police Department. On the technology front, the Allentown Police Department is still on the cutting edge. In 2015, we fully implemented an in-car camera program, provided officers with the ability to access real-time crime analytics from their patrol cars, and expanded our citywide surveillance system by an additional 15 high-definition cameras. In 2016, we will continue to expand our use of technology as a force multiplier. We are presently set to install an additional 14 citywide cameras, prepared to fully implement our body-worn camera program in the first quarter of 2016, and we're working towards making our officers safer and more efficient on traffic stops by partnering with the state police and the TRACS project. I commit that positive police-community relations will be a pillar of our department. Community outreach will continue to be a priority in 2016. Successful programs such as the Civilian Police Academy, the Youth and Advanced Youth Police Academy, and Cops Meet Block programs are already in their planning phases for 2016. As always, we'll be partnering with the Allentown School District to connect with some of our most valuable assets in this city, our youth. School advisory panels at both Allen and Deer High School are scheduled for the very near future. An Allentown Police Department Deer basketball game is one of hopefully many taking place. And programs geared towards middle school students that focus on smart, sound decision-making will soon begin to take shape. Finally, we'll be partnering with the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office to put naloxone, a life-saving overdose reversal medicine, in the hands of our police officers. It's never an easy task balancing officer and public safety with a fiscally responsible budget, but I submit to you a 2016 budget that I feel accomplishes that goal while still giving our officers the tools they need to be the best police officers that they can be. Although our budget does reflect an increase from 2015, the majority of the increase is personnel related, as previously discussed. From the operations side, however, our budget reflects some necessary additions, including increased training, replacement of aging equipment, and puts the infrastructure in place to not only keep pace with our current technology, but to continue to expand our capabilities. I'm open to your questions and comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Questions? Ms. Monta?
I would like to address the issue of diversity within our uniformed service, especially the police. You did mention that you've been doing outreach at Allen and at Darrow. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, recently we met with the ROTC programs in the high schools. They are a solid group of young individuals, did presentations with regards to the Allentown Police Department, and we are reaching out to the pastors in the community, reaching out through other various organizations. I do not have the list of the number of different places that we've attended this year already, but we've really hit the ground running with recruitment for our testing phase next year.
And another question that I have is, let's say that, you guys, I applaud you for doing this, doing a lot of outreach, because we talk a lot about that we want to have Allentonians become part of the police force. But the reality is, how are we dealing with this? Because I know that when you apply to become a policeman, you have to go through a lot of testings. And I also understand that if you're in the military, you get more points. So are we talking about a whole process of what, 2 to 3 years? If a person, let's say if a person passed all the testings, okay? How long does it usually take? Can you explain to me a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
And also the reason behind it is, I know people that have, they were born and raised here in the city of Allentown. They have taken the test, and it's been quite a year or so, and, it seems like the process is extremely lengthy.
Well, what I can say is we just recently transferred over to our civil service list. We were acting off of Bill, previously known as Bill 66. Mr. Marquetta, I forget what it is. I forget what the bill number is at this point in time. But it is where we were hiring, because we were in such a dire state of emergency on the police department to get up to full staffing. We were hiring individuals that were already trained as police officers. So we just completed that list, and although we started the background process for our current civil service list, we are just really starting to move on that now. So that's why, and that test was given about a little over a year ago, so that would be why people on that list have not gotten a response, possibly from our background investigators. What I can say, though, is that we have a relatively rigorous process, because we need to hire the best individuals for our community.
And I agree with you 120%. But the reality is, we're going to different, high schools telling, our youth, please become cops. But the reality is, it takes a long time.
Realistically, once we start the background investigation, it's only a couple of months from beginning to end, if we can move right along very quickly. However, like I stated before, the civil service list wasn't being utilized because we had the previous Bill 66 list, which allowed us to hire quickly officers that already had their police training. Now that we're transitioning to the civil service list, I think you'll see some of these individuals that you may be referring to, we're going to be getting called in, and this the process will start to move a lot quicker.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Akamel. Thank you, Chief. How many SROs do we have, and where are they located?
I believe we're at 7 right now. We have 2 at Allen, 1 at Deeriff, and 1 at each of the middle schools.
Okay. Are we doing any better on crossing guards? I mean, we need crossing guards, so.
We still need crossing guards. The crossing guard is a dilemma that still needs to be addressed.
From the time we had the meeting with the school district to now, did we see an increase in hires?
A handful, maybe, Mr. O'Connell, but not to the extent that we really need.
Who pays for the crossing guard?
We do. And I believe we're estimated at $322,000.
So the school district, they don't chip in?
At this point, no.
At this point, no, Councilwoman Mota, we are working very hard. The mayor is wanting to get some of that reimbursed, and so there is a definite effort to trying to get reimbursement for it, yes.
So hopefully in the future, right?
I'll follow up on what Mr. Hartzell just said. Yeah, we are speaking with the school district and hopefully going to resolve the issue.
Well, you talked about body cameras. Where are we at? It's the first quarter of 2016. We tested body cameras, right?
We tested, and we're moving towards purchasing the body cameras and implementing that in the first quarter of 2016. One of the obstacles we're up against at this point in time is, as we were preparing to move forward with the purchase, the company came out with new technology. So that technology will be released in the first quarter. So it makes no sense for us to buy those cameras now and then already be behind the eight ball as far as technology goes. So we're going to hold off just until the beginning of the first quarter.
And this is not a budget question. This is just a comment, personal comment. I want you to thank your people on the streets, your patrolmen, who we've had several incidents in Allentown over the last several weeks that I call ugly incidents.
Yes.
Okay? And that's a concern to me as a former educator, and I know Ms. Eichenwald was on the school board, I know Mr. Glazer on the school board, but your officers are going into situations that are extremely difficult to handle. And I just want, personally, I want to get it down to the patrolmen. I mean, we see the top brass here, the administration, but get it down to patrolmen. It's a tough job. And on any given day, something could break. And I don't like, I mean, it's only November. It's only November, you know, it's not even April, May when things really warm up. But just please give them my thanks for what they're doing, because it's on any given day.
I most certainly will, and thank you, Mr. President, for saying that. You know, we try to reassure them every day that we're proud of the work that they do. They're hard, dedicated individuals, each and every one of our officers.
And I read the letter that you sent to the school district, and I think we need to continue the partnership, obviously we will, with the school district, because we're one city, we're one school district, and, you know, together we stand, you know, divided we fall, so we have to do that.
Very true.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Questions, Mr. Woody?
Thank you, Ms. Eichenwald. First of all, I want to echo Mr. I think you go, we have all of us, I'm sure, with the constraints and that the police officer have been having, especially with the issues that have been going on. I just read last night that somebody was going to be shot, and was it Saturday night, I think, or Sunday, and the trigger didn't go, you know, for some reason.
Yes.
The gun didn't fire, which is amazing. But we all feel that they're getting into a dangerous situation, and they're constraining themselves to not get involved. And you know what happened at Allen High School, or
Zero
places.
Horrible.
You know, we really felt very, I mean, as council people, right, we've all talked about it, felt very grateful that, you know, the situation like that could have turned into a lot more worse situation, and it didn't. So I think on behalf of all of us, wishing, you know, our gratitude.
Thank you, I most certainly will.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. Well, I also want to say, I attended one of the graduation of the police academy last year, and it was, people were, you know, delighted to have been participants of it. So I think it's a good thing. I'm glad that it was brought back, and I'm an alumnus of the police academy, so I have a little bit of probably a bias on it, but I thought it was really, really good, and I think I encourage it as well.
The Civilian Police Academy you're referring to, yes.
Civilian Police Academy.
Now we're moving forward to having another one this year, or I'm sorry, next year, 2016.
Yes, that I think is really good. Creates a lot more, I think, positive relationship between the police and the citizen.
Yes, sir.
And I want to say another quick thing in regards to that. I was on 7th Street one day, and I saw a couple of patrols in the summer walking up and down on 7th Street, and they would go over into stores and talk to the people, and they were very grateful. And you know, particularly when you talk about bringing people from Allentown, the two gentlemen didn't speak Spanish, but they were speaking to, you know, somehow communicating with people who didn't speak English very well. And I thought that was very nice, and I really loved that. So I'd like to make sure that you pass that down, that kind of relationship is really something that people look very healthy and I think content on having in the city. Just couple little harder questions, you know. In regards to personnel, so you have here 241 total.
Staffing, we're budgeted for 222 officers.
222 officers, 241 total. It's your total positions.
Including civilian, yes.
Yeah, including civilian.
Yes.
Yeah. It's one less than last year, but in regards to the patrol, it's 220?
222.
222. Every year, since I can remember, at one time we did 240 police officers back in 2000.
Yes.
But every year we budget 216 last year, last year, it might have been 216 last year, but now we budget 221. And we never reach 215. What makes you think that you're gonna, you almost feel like we're padding the budget with extra, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 extra, but considering $100,000 per officer, but we never meet that goal.
I'm very confident that early in 2016, we are going to reach our full complement. As I was alluding to earlier, we have now transitioned to the civil service list. We've been moving forward with backgrounds on that list now for quite some time. We're preparing to do our physical agility test, I believe next week, and once that's done, we can move forward. We'll be very close to moving forward, and like I said, I'm very confident in the beginning of the year, we'll be able to reach that full complement. Just to give you an idea of, when we do backgrounds and where some of the difficulty lies is that we've done year to date in 2015 220 total background investigations and only been able to hire 13 individuals off of that list. There are rules in place as far as a background, an individual's background, and when those mandatory restrictions are met, we have to disqualify them from the process, and that's where we stand. It's, as I alluded to Ms. Moda, that it is a rigorous process, and once it gets moving, it goes rather quickly, but we want the best police officers possible on the street, so that's why we have this process in place.
Now, we had the list out recently, right? We put out the list to hire more officers, right? There was a test.
We'll be testing, I believe, in March or April of 2016, yes.
Are they applying now, or how is it?
The recruitment phase is open at this point in time, I believe.
It's open now?
Yes.
Okay, when is it closed?
I don't have that date right in front of me, I apologize, but it's usually, I believe, 30 to 45 days prior to the examination.
Okay, so we have a couple more months.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Do we ever get a chance to go through the whole list? I mean, at one time I remember that we had like over 1,000 people that actually applied, if you remember that.
Yes.
And I'm not sure whether, do you actually, and you just said that you have 220 and they had 220 plus, you only hired 12?
13.
How many?
13, we hired 13 officers in 2015.
Okay. And we had in the budget to bring our full complement to what,
222.
222?
Yes.
Good. So I'm just wondering if does the list actually get, I mean, do you look at everybody in the list and then eliminate so many of them?
On the civil service list, we're required to go in numerical order based on their ranking from the test. So we have to start with number 1, go to number 2, and move forward from there. We cannot go outside of a certain range or a band based on the test results.
Based on the test,
yes.
On the result of the score.
Yes.
I mean, I wish you luck. I just would like to see that we can put a, continue to put strong effort. I know it's a rigorous, process, but it's almost looked like every year we over budget, and we never reached the full components of what we budgeted. It's been going on, it's not you, I'm just saying, it's been going on since I've been in council, quite frankly.
We're trying. It's a goal of mine. I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks?
Thank you, Madam. Chief Morris, what number are we at now as far as how many patrolmen do we have now?
213.
213,
Yes.
so we're 8 short, or 9 short.
Yes.
Of the staffing numbers. Okay, great. And a minor comment, under telephone, you have a proposed increase of 37,000, which is, we've been steady, and last year it actually dropped. Who are those phones before?
Another item.
It's under the, 316.
22.
All right, just let me look here, sir.
Page 114, 22.
Well, that's the overall, the general fund summary, so that includes our communications center as well.
Center also.
Yes.
All right, so-
Like the telephone for the police department itself is minimal.
Okay. All right, and I too just want to comment also, as my colleagues did, that, I feel very blessed. Tim, Sergeant Snyder, if you pass on your men too, that fantastic job they've been doing the last couple of weeks. Again, the other night, an armed gunman tries to fire one of our officers. The restraint that your officers make here and going out of their way, is just incredible.
Thank you.
And I hear a lot of comments too, just, the accolades that I hear on the street every day. Just commend the officers, they're doing a fantastic job. We're very fortunate here when across the country, there's so many other cities which have a lot of turmoil, a lot of situations where officers act, and unfortunately, in circumstances that are less than stellar. All right, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, we do have deficit on the department. I'm well aware of the extent you go in the background checks. I had to do some myself when I was on the department. And it's frustrating, but it just leads to the fact that you hire the best and the most professional.
Yes.
And we don't end up with the incidents that many other cities end up with. So again, I commend you for the great job that's going on.
Thank
Pass
you.
that on.
I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Hendricks, I also wanted to get some clarity on that. Indeed, the entirety of that telephone budget does appear in the communications lines. And it's not entirely just police. Anything that's dealing with the landlines of the city or any of the cell phone lines that we have citywide is placed in that budget. This is a control function.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Hartzell. Any other questions, comments? Okay, comments from the public, questions? I just have two things that don't necessitate a long discussion. I just want to point out, based on my theme of this evening, the pension increase is over $1 million, and the insurance is $300,000, but certainly isn't a huge percentage. So I think that that's something that we need to address, why the pensions are so high. There hasn't been a new contract, there's not just one person. So I don't know if you still want to comment on that, Mr. Hartzell, but.
I will be happy to allow Chiron, when they are here later in the week, to comment in more detail upon that, because all those things, plus we have been running, we've been using up the general fund reserve in previous years, and that reserve isn't there anymore either, so that's not something that can be drawn upon. That also contributes.
Okay, but I just think that this really needs clarification.
Certainly.
And very shortly, within a week or two, we're going to have to vote on whether or not we're going to raise taxes and borrow more money. And I think these are central issues to that discussion. So we need to be quite honest and forthright and transparent with the citizens if they are going to bear the burden of the cost of these increases. So I add my voice to thank you very much, certainly for being here this evening, but for keeping us safe.
Thank you.
There was no greater responsibility that the administration has and we of city council have, and to keep our citizens safe. And as I mentioned before, in your hands, we feel safe. So thank you very much for being here, and we'll continue the budget discussion.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you. This meeting stands adjourned.